What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the entire exposition of Mozart's Sonata Köchel number 309 so that you can hear the entire exposition once through. On the repeat of the exposition, I'm going to be talking over it and pausing it and giving you some commentary about it. It will be very helpful if you've already read the section in your textbook that deals with this sonata exposition. You were assigned to read it. And it will also be important for you after you've watched this lecture to go to the diagram that Mr. Roig-Frankoli has of the sonata exposition and make sure that you understand how he makes that diagram and how the diagram relates to the actual music. Let me share my screen with you. Okay, so this is from your anthology at the end of your workbook. This is on page 302 and it's anthology number 25. I'm going to be playing a recording by the Japanese pianist Mitsuko Uchida, and we'll listen to the exposition, which is about 1 minute and 40 seconds or so. Now we'll listen to it again, and I'm going to be talking through it with you and also marking up this score. After I've marked up this score, it should be a little bit clearer how this music relates to the diagram that Roig-Frankoli draws of the sonata exposition in chapter 28. So this is the section, the large section that's known as the exposition. It starts in the key of C major, and the first thing that we'll hear is the beginning of the primary theme group, and because this is the first idea of the primary theme group, we're going to call it P1. And here's P1 again. This is called a counter statement. It's a repetition of the statement of P1. This now is P2. It's a new idea. Okay, so let me make some markings here. Okay, so we have P1 again, and this is what we call a counter statement. And notice that we do come to a perfect authentic cadence at this point, but instead of stopping and then restarting, this is an elided perfect authentic cadence. We have a 5 chord going to a 1 chord, and the 1 chord, which is the resolution of the 5 chord, is also the beginning chord of the next phrase. So this chord represents the last chord of the previous phrase and the beginning chord of the next phrase. Over here, we have a new idea, which we'll call P2, the second idea of the primary theme group. and P2 is repeated down here. Now I stopped the recording here at measure 21. This is the beginning of the transition, which we might abbreviate with the letter T. We do have a perfect authentic cadence here, so we're closing out the music of the primary theme area, or we're at least closing out the P2 music. The reason that I'm calling this the transition is that this is the point where we start getting some fairly serious introduction of accidentals. When we've had accidentals before, they've been very fleeting. They've served to tonicize 4 or to be a little lower neighbor note. But now accidentals come in fairly consistently in every measure. And what we're doing is we're modulating to the key of G major. I would consider this to be the pivot chord. It's the 5/6 chord in C major, and it's the 1/6 chord in G major. And then the music continues in the key of G for the rest of the exposition. But let's listen to this transition, and we'll also listen to how it leads into the secondary key area. Modulation. 5, 8. Okay, and that point that we just reached is the medial caesura. Let me write that in the music so that you can see how to spell it. Medial caesura is a fancy way of saying a pause in the middle, and that's exactly what we have. We have a half cadence in the key of G major. And now we're going to have the second theme group in the secondary key of G major. And the first thing that we're going to hear will be the thing that I'm going to call S1. It's the first idea of the second theme group. Here's S1 again. S2. There's a variation on S2. Okay, and we've just come to a perfect authentic cadence in G. I'll mark that perfect authentic cadence in. But I also want to mark that this is S2. And this is also S2. So the perfect authentic cadence that we have here draws the second theme group to a close. And what we have for the next 5 or 6 measures would be considered the closing section. The closing section is pretty short compared to the rest of the second theme group, and it doesn't really have a clear phrase structure. You don't hear lots of 4-measure phrases. Instead, what you hear are repeated cadential gestures that really make it sound like the music is coming to a close. Let me back it up just a second or two, and we'll listen to the closing section. Let me just mark in here that this is the closing section. And of course, the music comes to another perfect authentic cadence here. Okay, you should be able to look back over this music and understand what the markings are in it. Not those markings, which I'm taking out. Okay, I hope that you can hear and that you agree with me about the main key areas of C major and G major. I hope that you can hear the cadences, and I hope that you understand how I labeled the different parts of this exposition as the primary theme area, the transition, the second theme area, and the closing section. In the next lecture, we'll look at the development section.